OK, so climate activists are the bane of many motorists' lives, and they're blocking traffic, gluing themselves to roads, etc. These protests by the likes of Just Stop Oil and other groups have been on pause of late, but if they were to start up again, they would have quite a lot of lawyers on their side. It's a really important development, this. That's because more than 100 barristers, solicitors, legal academics, they're planning to sign what's called a declaration of conscience, vowing not to represent fossil fuel companies, so they won't defend fossil fuel companies or prosecute climate change protesters. They're kind of both sides of the coin there, OK? So there we go. Well, I'm joined now by Eddie, who is a spokesperson for Just Stop Oil. Thank you very much, Eddie, for joining us. I can't give your full name, can I?
My name's Edward Whittingham, but I go by Eddie. Thank you for having me.
Fair enough. OK, cool. That was easy. Good stuff, Eddie. Well, look, what do you make of the idea now that around 120 legal boffins are saying that they wouldn't prosecute you if your case was brought before them?
Sure. Well, I think what we need to be talking about is what is it that they've identified that has made them come out, often at great risk to their own career, to say we will not prosecute ordinary people taking peaceful action to avert the greatest crisis humanity has ever faced.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but do you think it's fair? Because they will continue, I would imagine, to defend people like paedophiles and rapists, etc., and they think, presumably, then that oil companies are worse than paedophiles, do they?
I think a little bit of context is needed here, Patrick. So 1.5 degrees of global warming is now locked in. If we go over 2 degrees, that will threaten the stability of global civilization. We can see north of 1 billion climate change refugees at 2 degrees of global warming. And according to the IPCC, any further delay in action on the climate crisis will mean missing a brief and rapidly closing window of opportunity to secure a livable, sustainable future for all. So I think what these lawyers and other legal professionals have done is absolutely heroic. OK, I think that history will thank them for it.
I get, obviously, there's two sides to this, which is that they're not going to, it would appear anyway, defend people like oil companies, which I do find remarkable, which is that they would quite possibly be willing to defend murderers, rapists, as I've said, paedophiles, etc. Absolute scum.
Do you know that that's what they're going to do?
Well, they do that in their legal profession, don't they? But
have they stated that?
What are you talking about? Sorry. So
yeah.
there's called the cab rank rule.
Patrick,
so
I'm just a 25-year-old university student. Okay, so you would need to invite one of the signatories of this letter to be clear on what they're actually saying.
No, absolutely, but this is a key point.
This is absolutely essential, what they've done. This is an absolutely essential step that they've taken.
OK, all right. So why do you think it's absolutely essential for them to potentially drive a coach and horses through the British legal system in the way of doing things? Because there is the cab rank rule.
They're upholding the rule of law. They're upholding the rule of law. OK, these are their words. The climate breakdown represents, quote, a serious risk to the rule of law. Those are not my words. Those are the signatories' words. Now, why do you think they're saying that?
Yeah, but I get what you're saying, because that's the argument that people like yourself use, which you're perfectly entitled to, which is if the climate emergency does come to fruition and it does happen, then there will be the breakdown in law and order and there will be mass death, etc. And I get all of that. I get what you're saying, and you're perfectly entitled to your view. But in this country, lawyers have to abide by what's called the cab rank rule, which is when a case essentially comes across into their lap, they have to take it, which means that they don't discriminate against which person that they decide to defend or prosecute. And they're making an exception for you guys on this. Do you not think that maybe sets a dangerous precedent going forward for the British justice system?
Again, I don't have the qualifications to comment on that. I can only speak for myself as someone taking action with Just Stop Oil. All
right, fair enough. When it comes to you not being prosecuted by some of this lot, obviously other people will continue, so how much of a material difference it actually goes to make is one thing. But one of the individuals who's fronting up this is a guy called Jolyon Morn, who did acknowledge...
Hero. Absolute hero.
Yeah, he clubbed a fox to death in his own back garden whilst wearing his wife's kimono on Boxing Day, so it's not particularly eco-friendly, is it?
Did he really? I didn't hear that. I'd have to fact-check that.
Well, he did it, yeah. Does that change your opinion of him at all as an eco-hero?
Well, at risk of getting drawn into petty details here, yeah. So I'm not sure I believe that personally. I would need to check that. But can I just bring it back to the main issue here, which is that we're facing the greatest crisis humanity has ever faced, and finally, the legal professional is taking its responsibility. That's how I see it. Okay, so is this going to make it more likely for you guys to go and do a load of stuff this summer? Have you got anything lined up? Will you be gluing yourself to anything? Well, it's funny you should ask that, actually, because I would extend a warm invitation to all your viewers to come and join us on April the 24th in slow marches. So slow marches are entirely legal. And we're going to be doing a march day after day, week after week, until the government does the right thing and commit to ending all new fossil fuel licenses in the UK.
Have you ever been arrested for anything that you've done?
Yeah, I've been arrested 6 times and I was in prison for a week on remand, yeah.
And did you find that that was actually quite useful for you in terms of raising awareness? Because that was one interesting element to this that I wondered whether or not you guys were actually, although it sounds like you are, bang in favour of this. Because sometimes it can add to a cause, can't it, if people get sent to prison and people get prosecuted and dragged through the justice system. So if this meant that that didn't happen, would it actually just weaken your cause?
That's a very interesting question. All that matters at the end of the day is that the government does the right thing. Well, I wouldn't be, on the streets getting arrested, going to prison if the government had done the right thing. I just want to make that absolutely clear. I know this is the first time we've met, Patrick, but hopefully, you can tell, from my demeanour, I'm not the kind of person that enjoys going out and making a nuisance of myself, right? All that I want is for the government to do the right thing, so that I've got a livable future, so that, all of humanity has a livable future. Okay. And whether that comes through civil resistance, whether that comes through another means, whether that comes by the legal system itself, that's all that matters. We just need to see change, and we need to see it now.
If you engaging in civil disobedience, even a slow walk, for example, or something, I suppose, more illegal, really, because a slow walk's all right, from what I can gather, isn't it, under the current legal framework?
It's legal.
Yeah, so actually gluing yourself to something, and an ambulance pulls up behind you, can't get through, and someone dies in the back of that ambulance, do you think you should be prosecuted then?
Well, we have a blue light policy in Just Stop Oil, which is that we'll always move out of the way of any
but it didn't happen last
which
time,
have blue lights on.
I get that, but if you're glued to something, you can't move out of the way, can you? And that is what happened last time, and there was footage of it as well, and ambulances didn't always find their way through. And also, when it came to things like on various different motorways, people were in massive traffic jams, and people were having strokes, people were going into labour, people missed chemotherapy appointments, etc. I mean, how does that make you feel, Eddie? Because you say that you don't enjoy doing this kind of stuff, and I know that legal professions, some of them are now getting behind you, as it were, but as I've already said, I would question the moral compass of some of those people and whether or not they maybe are using you for a bit of their own clout and for their own fundraising. And I do think that's something you might want to consider when it comes to a couple of those people. But if real people are suffering in the back of cars and dying, do you not think you should be prosecuted for that?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, no one has died because of anything that we've done. Okay, but what we do know is that millions, if not billions, of people will die if the government does not do the right thing, right? So it's a question of proportionality, right? And let me just reiterate, as soon as the government does the right thing, our campaign will cease to exist.
OK, all right. And what, just clarify one final, what do you want the government to do that it's not doing now?
So the government has over 100 new fossil fuel licenses in the pipeline. So this is in the context of the IPCC saying that, any delay in action will destroy any chance of a livable future. We've got the International Energy Agency, which is sort of the world's leading authority on energy policy. They're saying that no new fossil fuel projects were needed as of about 2 years ago. So any state, any government, any corporation that's investing in new fossil fuel infrastructure is going against the recommendation of the world's leading authority on energy policy. So we just want the government to do what these bodies are saying that they should do.
OK, now, just very finally on this, one of the people who is bang up for this particular cause, one of the people who's going to sign this declaration to say they won't be prosecuting you is a chap called Paul Powsland, and he was protesting after the Queen died. So people were mourning the Queen's death, OK? And he saw fit to use that opportunity to protest about the future of the British monarchy. Do you really want to be associated with these kind of people?
I don't really have a comment on it, okay? Obviously within, 120 legal professionals, there'll be differences in views. I'll share some things with them. I'll share, other things I won't share with them, okay? All that matters to me in this context is that they've come out and said this crucial thing, this absolutely crucial message that needs to be shared, which is that, lawyers and other legal professionals should not be prosecuting people like me, people who just want a livable future for humanity.
OK. Look, Eddie, thank you very much. I enjoyed our discussion. I don't think we've spoken before. I do hope that we speak again, though. And, I was going to say good luck.
Thank you, Patrick. All the very best.
All right, Eddie. Who is spokesperson for Just Stop Oil.